Hello everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm sharing with you the March 2019 Pick a Stick Challenge Art Journal page. At the Pick a Stick Challenge Facebook group, we offer an art journal page challenge, an artist trading card challenge, and now a altered tag challenge, all by randomly drawn one-word prompts. The rules are that you do the first six steps, the first 6 steps, and you do them in order. You can replace one of the steps that you don't like with one of the wild cards, and there are also 2 colors to use. So starting out with the first step was glue. I am just tearing some different types of tissue paper. These all are printed with different prints, and I am thinking about the colors, which are jade and khaki this month. So trying to find in my stash papers that have green and tannish colors on them. So I picked these different ones, and I'm going to use DecoArt's napkin deco page. This is the one that's for thin papers. To glue these down using a 1-inch flat brush that I use for gluing, trying to get as many of the wrinkles out as I can. This stuff has the property of drying and kind of stretching the paper as it dries to make it less wrinkly. So it really does work pretty well for thin papers like tissue paper or napkins, or serviettes, sometimes they're called, depending on where you are. So that's what this glue is for. I've torn my papers into strips. I'm using a visual journal from Strathmore, which is a spiral bound 9x12 journal that has 140-pound watercolor paper in it. So it's pretty sturdy paper. It can take all this wet media. The deco page for napkins is pretty wet. And on the other side of this one is the February page, which had a lot of stuff on it. So this page is, between the 2 finished pages, is very thick in my book. I might actually end up maybe taking out a couple pages of this book because it's getting to the point where it just wants to stay open. I'll have to put a belly band or something on it. So I've got different ones, khakis and greens, also some blues and pinks and oranges. And I'm just gluing them in strips going down the page, giving kind of I guess sort of a dark to light, but not really. Just interesting patterns and colors to make an interesting background. I have a lot of tissue papers that people have sent me in Happy Mail. You know, when you buy a pack of something like that, you have a lot of it and you can share it out with your friends by dividing it up. So I think that's what people have done. So the next step in the 6 steps was medium, and this could be anything, any kind of medium that you're using, whether it's paint or whether it's glue or whether it's whatever, but I decided to use golden light modeling paste as my medium, and I'm putting it through a Stencilgirl stencil that has trees because I'm trying to make kind of like a forest background. So I wished after the fact that the stencil was a mask instead of a stencil, because the parts that I wanted to be light are dark and the parts that I wanted to be dark are light. It just kind of happens that way because of the type of stencil I use, but it works out fine. It's still exactly the look I wanted. I just kind of wished it was reversed. So I'm applying that white molding paste through the stencil using a metal palette knife and trying to keep it real smooth. One thing that you need to remember is to run to the sink right away and clean that molding paste medium right off your stencil. You don't want that drying on there and making it all rough and nasty and hard to clean. So I did that. Of course, I cut that part out of the video. You don't need to wait for me to come back from cleaning. The next step, number 3, is deer. And I thought about doing something else, but I decided to just go right with it, to go with a deer. So I printed a picture of a deer, and this is a royalty-free picture from unsplash.com, and I will put the link below to this picture with the credit to who took the photograph. Unsplash is a website where you can get pictures that are not copyrighted and you don't have to pay royalties to use in your art. So a lot of photographers are willing to share their photos. So if you are a photographer who's willing to share your photos, you can go over there and sign up to Unsplash and post your photos on there. Sometimes if people use the photo, they'll post their art, what they made with it. It's kind of interesting. Some people are doing that, but very many. But it's interesting, and I'm very happy to have a website like that so that I don't have to worry about the copyrights on the photos if I use them. Even a magazine photo can be copyrighted, and it's hard. It's just a big complicated mess to try to figure it out. So it's better to go to Unsplash and get your photos from there for your inspiration of your art. Whether you're going to make a painting and you want to have an inspiration photo, or whether you're actually going to use the photo in within the art as a collage element. So now I'm using some fluid acrylic paint, golden high flow. It's a very very liquidy paint, but also very highly pigmented, so it doesn't fade when you put a lot of water on it. And the reason that I'm doing this is I'm trying to get the paint to catch on the medium, in between the medium, and give me some lines. And I start out with phthalo green, and then I move to transparent brown, and then also shading gray to give me a little bit more depth of color within these trees. And I'm trying to keep it cleaned up and off the bottom part of the page where I have all that nice collage. I don't want it to mess that up. I'm wiping it back and drying it off with a shop towel, and then adding more, putting water on it, drying it off. It's messy and it gets all over your hands, but it makes a cool effect. I do put a lot of water on there. You need to make sure that the type of paper that you're using is going to be able to handle all this wetness that you're going to be putting on there. So it's just a fun thing to do. You can leave it more drippy if you want, but what I wanted it to do was to settle down into the cracks and crevices of where I put the molding paste. That was my intention. So then I need to give that a good dry before I move on, but I don't want the molding paste to puff up, which it sometimes does. So I used a lower pressure, lower temp heat tool, which is the Heat It tool from Ranger, instead of my really hot embossing gun that will make that molding paste puff up. Sometimes you want it to do that, it gives it more texture, but today I did not want it to do that. So I dried it a little bit more patiently than I normally would. So now I'm using some matte gel medium to collage down my deer. Deer. He's such a deer, isn't he? He's such a deer. You can get really weird with that, people. And I almost did. I almost went really off the rails, but I decided to just go with an actual animal here because that's a cute photo and a cute animal. So, yeah, that's what I did. I also could have drawn it. I also am using some of the paper that was on the photo that has grass, and I'm tearing it and collaging that down on his feet. I did put matte fluid medium with a brayer over this entire print because I have an inkjet printer. I need to seal it before I use it. Otherwise, the inks from the printer will just, you know, make everything smushy and smear it. So that's why I do that. So there's a couple ways that I used matte fluid medium and also matte gel medium, and it's a matte finish and matte. That's like not even a very hard one right there. I did have a little tearing right there, so I glued it back down with some glue, and I did end up kind of fixing that area where the paint seeped under my tape. I had tape all the way around the edges to keep everything clean and to keep the spiral clean. So then the next prompt was draw. And so I'm drawing some grass and some flowers and some doodles and some lines. I draw a border. I start out with my fine tip black Posca pen, and then I move on to some colored Posca pens that come from the same set. You can buy like a set of 8 or a set of 12 with all the colors, including the black and white that I use so frequently, plus other colors. I am drawing some lines and branches into my tree because now I have a lot of black at the bottom. I need to bring those black sketchy lines up to the top of the composition as well. So just kind of going, along the lines of the stencil with my pen. And here I am drawing the border with the straight edge, metal straight edge. Remember to clean that straight edge with your shop towel as you're going along, or else you're going to get some black smeary stuff because it doesn't dry as quickly on the metal. And then the next time you put it down, you're like, oh, dang it. Learned that from experience. Also, my pen is also almost running out. Plus, it's getting a little bit goopy from the mediums not being completely dry, which I should be more patient, but I'm just not. So I've got grasses, I've got flowers, I've got kind of a couple horizon lines, I've got borders, I've got trees, I've got everything that I've drawn in. Posca pens are acrylic paint pens, and they're really super easy to use. I recommend them very highly. So now I've got the yellow Posca pen from that same set of 8, and I am coloring in the flowers so that you can see them a little bit. That set there that you can see, though, is deceptive. It has my gold and silver, and those don't come in there. It comes with the black and white instead of the gold and silver, so just ignore the gold and silver. I just threw them in there because I have the black and white out all the time. So then I go ahead and use the green as well. It brings them some more of that jade color. And I think I'm getting the white now, maybe. Oh no, next I'm putting some shadows on, and then I'll put the white on with highlights. This is a black Stabilo All pencil, and I'm going all around the deer because remember that's just glued on there, and it doesn't blend very well when it's just glued on. It looks like a sticker. It's just stuck on there, and I don't want that. I want it to look as if it's part of the composition. So by using something like this water-soluble pencil and a water brush, I can get a good shadow going on that's loose and free and watery. It's not a harsh line, but I can get it all the way around and give that deer a little bit more punch, a little bit more wanting to look like it's part of the composition, but yet still standing out from the background. So I did that with a Stabilo All pencil and a water tank brush. Stabilo All is highly water reactive, not just a little bit water reactive, but very, very water reactive. So it's great for that type of a process. There are other watercolor pencils in the world, certainly are, including ink tints and, a lot of different ones. But the Stabilo just really reacts to the water quickly and doesn't give me any harsh lines. So then I'm adding highlights using my white Posca pen. You see me do this a lot. I think it makes things stand out even more. And I also want to use just a little bit of white acrylic paint and kind of scrape it over the top of that molding paste to give some white highlights to the trees as well. I could have done that with the pen, but it was easier to just take some titanium white paint and put it on with my finger. Then that just gives a little bit of whiteness to the barks, some highlights. Not being too fussy about it, just getting it on there. So I think that the challenge this month is super easy. I wish that the things that I had drawn would have been a little bit more complex. But the only one that I did question myself about was transparent. That could mean a lot of things. I could have put a transparent layer over the top or a flip out or tip out. I could have used vellum or deli paper is pretty transparent. Any transparent paper could be used, but what I ended up with is this completely clear shrink plastic. I don't use this very often because it's clear, it's transparent. And so I don't know, I just don't like it as well, but I thought, hey, this is a good application for it. Transparent, if anything is transparent, as this. So I decide to make my title or word for my page out of this. And I draw on there the word wild, which is exactly what this page is about, being out in the wild with the deer. Then I color it in with 3 different colors of alcohol markers. These are the Spectrum Noir, and I'm using a yellow green and I think a couple different yellow greens, and then um, I don't know, something, a darker green too. 3 different colors, kind of an ombre top to the bottom. And then I go back around it again with a Faber-Castell illustration pen. This is India ink, so it's permanent. And then I cut it out, and I wasn't being very careful when I was cutting it out. I just wanted to cut around it. I didn't want to like cut each individual letter and shrink each individual letter on its own. So I was trying to kind of make it one piece. And as I was cutting, I kind of tore it. And I decided, you know what? I don't care. I don't even care. I'm just going to shrink that part separately, and then I will shrink the other part separately, and I end up breaking it. And yeah, anyway, it's not pristine or perfect, but you know what? This is an art journal page. If I was going to be selling this, or I was concerned about my art being preserved and being perfect and being beautiful, I would have redone the word. But the heck with that. I don't want to. It's already as annoying enough as it is. So um, then, of course, it stuck together, and it works a lot better if you put it in a oven. It'll shrink itself and lay completely flat. But of course, I want to just do it with my heat tool, so it sticks together. I have to unstick it. I burn my fingers, the whole thing. But the end piece does look really cool with the transparent letters because they are definitely transparent and shiny and plastic. I hope you're enjoying this process. If you are, please remember to give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment or question below, subscribe if you haven't already. If you haven't joined the Pick a Stick Challenge, lots of great art coming out from the people who are posting, and there's a lot of posting going on. So I will leave the link in the box below for you to ask to join. Of course, remember, when you ask to join, it'll give you some questions and you need to answer them. We will not accept you if you don't answer the questions, because we need to keep people that are in there to do the challenge and not just there to sell product or spam the group. So then to glue this on now, what kind of glue are you going to use? Well, it's transparent, so it's going to have to be a transparent glue, and you're going to have to cover the entire back or else it's going to show. So I end up using the Mod Podge Dimensional Magic, which is a clear, I usually use it as a kind of like a gloss over the top of something because it'll make a clear, hard shine over the top. But it also works for this great. So that glued my letters down, and I went ahead and added March 19 PASC for the so I can remember which month and year it was on this page. And then I was done. I hope you like it, and I can't wait to see all your pages in the group. I know you will post them in there for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.